Hello everyone. So, let me just grab something. The ID card system, this is something that I'm starting to mention a bit more now that they've actually been made up. It's a system which gives you access to a private Discord community, which I originally said was just for like kind of giveaways and exclusive events for people that I would give like physical merch stuff to, or anyone that received something physical from me. But now I've started putting some exclusive files on it, basically as a place where I can archive things which I'm not really going to use anymore, or I might use, but they are just not really substantial enough for me to do something more with, like an actual video or even a Patreon post. So this little community, which I'm calling the Code Holders Network, is basically like a shadow Patreon, I suppose. It's harder to get into, it's got access to more like foundational things, and I'll be adding more to it in the future. So there are only a few ways to get into it, because I feel like there's something kind of like fun and club-like, I suppose, about it. You have to have some kind of physical connection back to me in some way. That means having something that I've given to you, or purchasing something physical that I've made. Alternatively, the other way to get in is to be a $5 patron for over a year, because that's the criteria I've had for actually like writing letters to people and sending them handwritten codes. So if you can hear additional noise, by the way, that's one of the downsides to living in this rental. So when people walk around upstairs, it's really loud because this house hasn't been built properly. So what's the point of like going through all of this? Why don't I just put like some of the extra content on Patreon and then use this as like an advertising point to advertise more things for the patrons? Well, I make like a lot of stuff, and a lot of the files, they're so like hyper specific in their nature that they're difficult to market to people. So that's always been like a balance. Like I can tell myself to mass produce content, but then you run the risk of annoying people by producing too much of something they're not interested in, if that makes sense. So with the Patreon, I've always tried not to message people too much, only like when there are big announcements like new main channel videos and stuff like that. So if I did a string of like 20 really hyper specific like little Blender files in between, then I think that might be a little bit annoying. Same goes for other social media as well, like on Twitter. I'm trying to keep those places a bit more generalized, but I'd still like people to have access to stuff. But also this kind of also goes back to the whole, I feel like for someone to be healthy in this line of work, like mentally healthy, doing different creative things, they need different outlets. So, you know, physical stuff, but also I've got a whole bunch of stuff on my hard drives that I don't really have anywhere to put it, but other people might find useful at some point. And again, kind of going back to the archivist personality, well, why not shove them on the private server? There are unreleased Blender Nest episodes. Why don't I kind of just very quickly trim those down, put them on there so people can enjoy them? And also things like my policies for life, which I've mentioned in so many videos, which I have started writing up properly. Where do I put them? Why would I do a video on the main channel talking about my philosophical policies? It makes no sense for Blender stuff. On social media, it's gratuitous, it's weird. But if it was like, you know, something like a shadow Patreon, which is implicitly not connected to a specific purpose, would be a good place for that, if that makes sense. Like the people that filter down and make their way to this server already understand that the stuff that's going to go on there is weird or disconnected from regular purposes. Like if I just suddenly sat down and, you know, like on my main channel, we've just done a video about the new Blender features. Also, by the way, let's talk about the progression of abstraction in the universe and which convergent evolution, and why I think bipedal aliens are probably quite likely in the universe when compared to other forms. Or the paradoxical psychology of how encouraging kids at a young age actually destroys their skill development later in life and stuff like that. You know, it's difficult to take all those threads and find places for them that doesn't feel embarrassing or inappropriate or something like that. I also feel like a really low level ground like that, where just anything can just be thrown, like splat against the wall, is also probably a good place for ideas to filter upwards as well. So if I put anything like unreleased on there that someone goes, actually, I think you should release that at some point, then it's a good, you know, testing ground to say, okay, well, this inner community that thinks separately from my own conscious has decided that this little thing is actually worth sharing with more people. But I also want to make it useful, so I want to put like some maybe text-based advice on there for artists and stuff, so that the inner network isn't so selfish in a way, but there are actually like channels with guides for like solutions or exercises for things to help people create content, start businesses, deal with like the mental health side of things, maybe even like connect them with other services or people to help them excel. So that's kind of how I want to think about it, but we'll see how that goes. I think it might be interesting. So if you want to join the private server, you're going to need to get your hands on a card somehow. I do have a bunch of damaged ones or rejected ones. I've made like, hold on, let me show you the stack. This is the width of the ID card stack at the moment for the ones which have been made but haven't been assigned to anything yet. So I could take some of these to the Blender conference or assign them to products when I package them. But there are a small number of rejected ones, probably about a stack this size, which I was thinking about putting on sale at a cheaper price. But yeah, yeah, and I've been very strict with this because like I've got moderators on my main Discord server, which like, I usually invite to anything, like any new server, because I've got moderators on my main Discord server, which I haven't even invited to this new one because I really want to kind of stick with the principle of like the only way in is via one of these codes. And there's a process where you have to register it on curtisholder.online/register. Basically anyone can actually get into the Discord server, but because there's a permission system, only people that we've managed to confirm as being attached to a code can see the content. So like I said, I got a bunch of like old project files on there, which is interesting, like old Biogen experimental stuff and unfinished product files as well. And I want to start trying to like extract things from conversations with other creators, just like not as proper podcasts, but because I speak to creators a lot in the like evenings. And sometimes we talk about some really useful stuff. So maybe I just want to try and capture some of that sometime as well. Stuff that would otherwise just like go into the ether. But yeah, just letting you know that's a system that's going on now. And at some point I'm going to have to like maybe redesign my homepage on the website just to like explain all of the systems to people that are coming along from YouTube. Like, hey, this is the YouTube. It keeps you updated on things and also connects you with the community a bit. Here's the Twitter. Here's what we do over here. Here's the Patreon if you want to help support. Here are the products. There are 2 different types of products. You got like your software products for Blender and stuff. If you want help like, making your art projects, you've got physical things. This is where it gets a bit weird because if you want access to some extra stuff, here's a private community, which you can only get to through the physical stuff. But otherwise, there's a public community if you want to take part in art events and discussions and get help for your Blender projects and stuff like that. So here's a picture of the ecosystem. But yeah, anyway, if you made it this far through the video, put a food-related emoji in the comments. That will end this log. I will see you next time.